Brussels police shut down the National Conservatism Conference just as Nigel Farage was speaking. He was on stage when this happened. There are also going to be other big names there. Hungary's Viktor Orban, Conservative MPs, including Suella Braverman and Miriam Cates. The Mayor of Brussels, though, said he had issued an order banning the conference to guarantee public safety, adding the far right is not welcome. The far right, this is just wildly illiberal, Dan, sinister.
Well, it is. And look, it shows a couple of things, as we've talked about before. The left is scared of debate. The people at that conference, and that conference has now been going for a number of years, there are some serious people. It's not just politicians, there's academics and public intellectuals that are trying to provide context to those in the West about, where do we go from here, given all the challenges that we have. And it's concerning that it's victim blaming, like we just talked about. Now, apparently, by having a conference and inviting speakers that are considered to be controversial, you're somehow inviting violence and that you're the one that's going to be shut down. It should be the other way around. Yes. Police should be protecting the conference to protect free speech and debate, but it's been flipped on its head.
To me, it's astonishing that you could have someone like Suella Braverman labelled far right and a danger to the public. The fact that she would be taking to stage to speak amongst leaders and thought leaders is somehow dangerous in Brussels. I mean, for the love of God. Now, let's come back to a crucial issue in this country. The government's nature positive plan has thankfully hit a road bump in West Australia. The Labor Party there are warning it's not going to be popular, and Environment Minister Tanya Plibersek will now stagger the plan. That's angered Green Group Stan, but this plan is still a hot mess. It's going to be catastrophic, not just for mining, but really so many other vital projects.
Well, you're right. There's not an aspect of our society that the nature positive plan wouldn't impact. Now, yes, there's been a minor back down, but the government is still going to proceed with the controversial Environmental Protection Agency. And what the Samuel Review recommended or talked about, and this was the major review into our environmental laws, it said you can have an Environmental Protection Agency, but it needs to be limited to compliance and enforcement. Instead, what the government is proposing is that this EPA would be in charge of approvals of projects. These are major resources projects. Now, there's a couple of problems. The first is that the role of the minister would be diminished. In our Westminster system, whether you agree or disagree, it must be the minister that decides on project approvals. And secondly, we all know where this is going to go. It's going to be an untouchable bureaucracy filled with activists that only consider the environmental side, but not the economic and social side.
Well, that is precisely what's going to happen. And just through the process, the so-called consultations, the lack of transparency there, the lack of information that's been put forward for such an enormous plan with wide-reaching consequences. I'm shocked that they're still proceeding with this. Is this delay or staggered approach just to try to save WA come their election next March?
It certainly looks political, and WA would be the state that is hardest hit given the importance of a resources sector. You're right to mention the transparency. There's been no real consultation about this. It's been shrouded in secrecy.
The consultation seems to be done in secret, which to me is questionable in itself. What's the point of having consultations if there's no transparency?
And if it's such a great plan, what do you have to hide? Why not bring the public along with you? So clearly they're trying to hide something. They've been caught out. But like I say, this EPA is a concern.